for making some time for us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. So I'm caught up on season 2, part 1.
Good.
How do you think that William and Amber are so accepting and supportive of Mark and him being a superhero and sometimes being an absentee friend and boyfriend?
Well, I think Amber sort of spells it out. I mean, Amber's big problem with Mark in season one wasn't that he was a superhero, it was that he was lying to her, right? About this massive part of his life. And I think that any relationship, even if you don't know the other person is lying, you subconsciously can feel that. So that was one of the issues. Season two, all his cards are on the table. She knows everything now. So it puts their relationship in a very different place. And the same for William. William knows what Mark's doing, so they understand that he's dealing with, all this trauma from season one that he has to, work his way through, and then two, the responsibilities of having powers like his, like both to save lives, but then also like some of those deaths in season one, like he was there. Some of them were caused by his own body. So they're, I think, more understanding of that, certainly now in season two, that they've seen the whole picture than they were in season one. And
Yeah,
they're good friends. They're good friends.
yeah, like better than regular human friends, I would even say.
Well, yeah, yeah, maybe, I guess.
Why don't you think Mark fully commits to being a superhero or fully commits to being a human and living his human and college life?
I think, well, that's the thing he's torn between. Again, it's the responsibilities of having those powers. If you have the ability to save lives, to stop people from dying, doesn't that mean you have to do that? Doesn't it mean that every time you're not doing that, you're costing potential like people from dying? Like, so that's the struggle, I think, of anyone who would have superpowers like that. Like, you want to be helping people all the time because that's the moral obligation you have, but at the same time you can't do that because you also have a life. You can only, be conscious so many hours a day. You need to have, like, you would burn out in no time, but doesn't mean the weight of those responsibilities aren't always on you, pushing down and crushing you. So I think that's one of Mark's big struggles in season two, is that balance of just like a regular life that is sustainable and then the responsibilities of power.
Yeah, even I feel like Samantha Eve has that issue as well of feeling a responsibility. But do you think being, and even this is a lot that she has to deal with, but Mark as well, do you think you can be a superhero but not cause some sort of harm?
Oh my God, that's a really good question, right? Because like even the fact that you're super, like, I think our last episode of season one is a great example of that. Is, Mark didn't actively kill anyone in season one, but the very fact that he existed is what caused his father to fight him, to destroy an enormous part of Chicago. So what responsibility does he have to bear for those deaths? And that's something we actually explore in season two. We actually show you that and we discuss that and you see that weighing on Mark and on Debbie and everybody else. So it's that, I mean, like obviously Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Well, yeah, I mean, he's not wrong, right? And we want all those decisions to have impact on our characters, and definitely emotional impact, and we want to show you those costs. Like Mark, when he was young, thought being a superhero was great. You fly into a bank, you beat up bank robbers, you win, the cops come and take them away, everything's awesome. But as he's gotten older through season one and definitely in season two, he starts to realize that, like, oh no, some of those other people in that bank, could be killed. They might have nightmares the rest of their life. Like there is a area of effect that happens whenever superheroes interact with regular people, and maybe it's not all good.
Yes. We're introduced to a new character, Armstrong Levy, and he is the type, in the beginning at least, that wants to, he's fully committed to being a superhero, but also fully committed to using his powers for what he thinks is good. Do you think you can be kind of a superhero purist? And if you had all this power, do you think that you could essentially never use it in selfish ways?
Man, well, I mean, that's you're asking the question of that, like, does power corrupt, right? Does absolute power corrupt? Absolutely. I think it would be very, very, very hard because we are human beings and we all have our own foibles and our own weaknesses and our own vices. I think you could be a good person, definitely, as I think most people are good people today. But I think it would be hard to be perfect if you had superpowers. It'd be very tempting, and to bend the rules for yourself, or maybe take a little advantage here or there. And I think after a while, you would start to justify. You'd be like, "Well, I saved 100 lives yesterday, so maybe I'll just borrow, some money over here, or I'll just like." You would start to make exceptions for yourself. So I think that's a question that writers have asked of humanity for hundreds of years and will continue to ask. And I think we're all, we're human. We have vices. I think it would be very hard to be a perfect person with powers.
Yes. This season also explores the idea of a metaverse a little bit, which has become a bit popular
Mhm.
within all forms of media. How did you guys balance out the idea of a metaverse, clones, and all of that, but not have it become a trope and like, oh, we can just have a metaverse because why not? Why? How did you decide to push it forward in the actual storytelling?
Sure. I mean, so one of the things was like obviously Invincible is based off Robert Kirkman's comic books, his multiverse happened 15 years ago in the comic books. So it's not like we're not doing it because everybody else is doing it. We're just doing it because it was in the original material and that's where we are in the story now. So we want to do that character. And I would say the other thing is that I don't think we're not doing a multiverse season. That's
Hmm.
not the plan. It's not like, Invincible season 2 across the, Markiverse or anything like that. It's a character. We're showing you a new character, a villain who just happens to have these powers.
Hmm.
So our season isn't about the multiverse. It's about, a character named Angstrom Levy who has, had a good intentions that maybe went wrong. And we're just going to follow the character. And the multiverse just happens to be where his power resides. So yeah, so there was no point where we were like, oh, now we should do our multiverse. That's not how we came up with it.
Yes, for sure. And I can confirm the season is not about the multiverse. It's just a
Great.
small little element. But Debbie, it's just such like a gut-wrenching performance, even seeing it animated for Sandra Oh, of being called a pet and the feeling that the last 20 years literally meant nothing to a person that you created a life and a family with, and also being an empty nester. How did you guys play that out as in like it's something that she can develop and there's multi feelings about this?
Well, we did some research. There have been cases where this has happened in real life. I mean, like I think we've all been lied to by a partner at some point. But there's, you can do some research. People have written about, cases where someone's been married to someone for years and then that person murders someone, or that person has a whole hidden life. So, you know, we do our research. We look at like how this affects people. What are the emotional ramifications of that kind of stuff? And then we take those ideas and we bring them into the show. And we just wanted to make sure that it felt realistic. It felt grounded. I think on Invincible, we really try to make sure that what happened last week uh, is still here this week and might still be here next week and the week after and across seasons. And when you go through something like where your partner of 20 years actually turns out to be a sleeper agent and murders all these people in Chicago, and almost murders your own son, it's going to take Debbie a long time, if ever, to get over that, to work her way through that trauma, even for such a strong character as her. And we want to treat that honestly and treat that realistically with her. And also, we have Sandra Oh. Like Sandra Oh, like let's put her on screen. Let's have her explore these feelings, these emotions. We would be not doing our job if we didn't give you more Sandra Oh whenever we could.
Yeah, I feel like no voice talent is wasted in the show, which I very much appreciate. Why do you think Omni-Man to me is just so callous? Like he doesn't really seem to have that moment that clicks, that we all say things in anger and all of that. That's
Mhm.
like, oh, that was messed up for me to say. Like it seems to me this season, she was my pet, it's whatever. Like, why do you think he is just so callous? And in the past 18 years, a father switch didn't turn on, a husband switch didn't turn on, a human switch didn't turn on.
Yeah, well, so the thing to remember is he looks like us, but he's not human. He's an alien. He was raised in a very different society, and you get a taste of that when he tells you about it in episode 8 of last season. So his values, his life, the way he grew up is not like us. So everything that we hold dear, that we assume you just get by being human on the planet, he doesn't have.
Mhm.
It's only the fact that he's been on Earth for so long, for 20 years, that allows him to feel anything, that allows him to change a little bit. So in season 2, if we see him again in season 2, because who knows, right? I don't want to spoil the episode. Maybe not. But he would be struggling, with those two worlds, like the world he grew up in and this new world that he's lived in for the last 20 years and trying to fit those together. So his coldness, his callousness comes out of how he was raised. I don't think he got a lot of hugs when he was a kid. Probably not many hugs. He probably got more punches than hugs.
Yeah, it's as we were saying about not wasting voice actors, like this is probably the darkest I've seen J.K. Simmons since the movie.
Whiplash?
Yeah, the drums. Yes.
Yeah.
Just it's insane. But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. Congrats on part 1. I'm waiting for part 2. And thank you so much for all of this. I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Ariana. Thank you for making time for us. And thank you for writing about the show. That lets us, people like you watching the show and writing about it helps us to make more seasons. And that's what we love to do. So thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a good day.